A man named Gerald. 62 years old, retired electrician, no chest pain, no shortness of breath, no history of heart attack. His wife said he mowed the lawn that afternoon. They had dinner together. Watched the news, he kissed her goodnight, turned off the lamp, and fell asleep like he had 10,000 nights before. She found him in the morning, still in bed, still on his side. He looked peaceful, she told the paramedics, like he was sleeping. The autopsy told a different story. Gerald's heart muscle was riddled with fibrosis, patches of stiff scar tissue where healthy contracting muscle used to be. His heart had been quietly deteriorating for years, not from a blockage, not from a genetic defect, from a nightly habit that his doctor never once asked about and Gerald never thought to mention, because in his mind, it was completely normal. Millions of people do it every single evening without a second thought. I am not going to name that habit yet. First, I need you to understand what it does to your heart while you sleep, because without that context, the danger will not land the way it needs to. Here is what I want you to know right now. Sudden cardiac death during sleep is not a freak event. It accounts for a significant percentage of all cardiac deaths worldwide. The majority of those hearts were damaged long before they stopped. They were sending signals. Nobody connected them. Subscribe and hit like right now. What I am about to explain, your doctor does not have 45 minutes to walk you through at your next appointment. There is no billing code for this conversation. That gap should not cost lives. That is exactly why this channel exists. Most people think sleep means the body shuts down. Everything goes quiet, everything stops. That is wrong. Your heart never stops working. It shifts into a completely different operating mode, and that mode is the only reason your heart survives as long as it does. The moment you fall into deep sleep, your autonomic nervous system, the part of your nervous system that controls processes you never consciously think about, makes a critical switch. It moves from sympathetic dominance, your alert, active, daytime branch, to parasympathetic dominance, the rest and repair branch. Heart rate drops, blood pressure dips by 10 to 20%. Your coronary arteries, the vessels that feed the heart muscle itself, dilate slightly, allowing more blood to reach the tissue that spent the entire day pumping under load. This is when the real work happens. Micro damage accumulated during the day gets repaired. Inflammatory markers that built up from stress, exertion, and metabolic activity are cleared. Heart muscle cells enter a recovery phase that cannot occur at any other time, not during a nap, not while you sit on the couch. Only during sustained, uninterrupted deep sleep does the heart get a genuine maintenance window. This window is not a luxury, it is a structural necessity. Without it, damage accumulates faster than the body can fix it. Muscle fibers stiffen, scar tissue creeps in where flexibility used to be. The electrical system of the heart, which depends on healthy tissue to conduct signals cleanly, starts misfiring. Anything that disrupts this recovery window does not simply cost you a night of rest. It chips away at the integrity of the muscle that keeps you alive, beat by beat, night by night. And the most common disruptor is something you would never suspect. Here is the habit: eating a large, heavy meal within 2 to 3 hours of going to sleep. Not a snack, not a handful of crackers, a full dinner. Pasta, bread, cheese, fried meat, a dessert, maybe a glass of something on the side. High in refined carbohydrates, loaded with processed fat, and saturated with sodium you did not even taste. And I understand exactly why it happens. You work 9, 10, 11 hours. You skip breakfast. You grab something small at lunch, because there is no time. You walk through your front door at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the evening absolutely starving, and you eat the biggest meal of your day. By 10 o'clock or 10:30, you are in bed. Your stomach is still full, and you think this is normal because everyone you know does the same thing. It is not normal. It is a physiological collision. The moment that heavy meal hits your stomach, your digestive system fires up to full capacity. That takes resources. Your body redirects a massive volume of blood toward the gut to process what you just ate. The vagus nerve, the main communication highway between your brain and your internal organs, goes into overdrive managing digestion, acid secretion, and nutrient absorption. Meanwhile, your heart is receiving the signal that it is nighttime. It is supposed to be slowing down. It is supposed to be entering that recovery window we just discussed. But it cannot, because right now it is being asked to pump harder, move more blood to the stomach, support a full digestive operation. Your body cannot wind down and ramp up at the same time. It is being pulled in two opposite directions. The heart is caught in the middle, and every single night this happens, the heart loses. Now let me show you exactly how that damage works, pathway by pathway. First, insulin. A large carbohydrate-heavy meal in the evening causes a sharp spike in insulin, the hormone your pancreas releases to manage blood sugar. But insulin does more than handle glucose. In high concentrations, it signals your kidneys to hold on to sodium. More sodium means more water retained. More water means higher blood volume. Higher blood volume means elevated blood pressure at night during the exact hours when your blood pressure is supposed to drop by 10 to 20%. When that drop does not happen, doctors call it non-dipping. That is a clinical term for a blood pressure pattern that stays flat or even rises overnight. Non-dippers have significantly higher rates of left ventricular hypertrophy, which is the thickening and stiffening of the heart muscle wall. A thicker wall pumps less efficiently and conducts electrical signals less reliably. That is the beginning of arrhythmia. Second pathway. You lie down on a full stomach. Gravity no longer keeps the contents down. Acid rises into the esophagus. That is gastroesophageal reflux. What most people do not know is that acid in the esophagus stimulates the vagus nerve in a way that can directly disrupt heart rhythm. This is a documented trigger for episodes of atrial fibrillation during sleep. Your heart skips, flutters, or races, and you blame it on a bad dream. Third pathway. After a heavy meal, triglycerides and free fatty acids flood your bloodstream. During sleep, when these levels should be at their lowest, they are peaking. These compounds promote inflammation in the endothelium, the inner lining of your coronary arteries, the same mechanism that builds the plaques we discussed. One late dinner does not kill you, but this inflammatory hit repeating every single night for years is what quietly destroys the muscle that keeps you alive. One late dinner does not scar your heart, but hundreds of them do. When the cycle I just described repeats night after night for years, the heart muscle does not just weaken in some vague, general way. It undergoes a very specific process called myocardial fibrosis. Here's what that means in plain terms. Healthy heart muscle fibers, the ones that contract with every beat, that stretch and spring back, that conduct electrical impulses cleanly from cell to cell, are gradually replaced by stiff, rigid scar tissue. Scar tissue does not contract. It does not stretch. It does not pass electrical signals the way healthy muscle does. It just sits there, hard and inflexible, taking up space where working muscle used to be. As fibrosis spreads, two things happen simultaneously. First, the heart becomes a weaker pump. It cannot squeeze with the same force because part of the muscle wall is now inert. Second, the electrical system becomes unstable. Signals that normally travel in smooth, coordinated waves across the heart start hitting patches of scar and bouncing in unpredictable directions. That is called a reentrant circuit, and it is the electrical substrate for sudden cardiac arrest, an uncoordinated electrical misfire in a scarred heart that causes it to stop pumping entirely in the middle of the night, with no warning. And here is the part that should concern you most. Fibrosis is largely invisible on a standard checkup. Your blood pressure might read perfectly normal. Your cholesterol numbers might be acceptable. A 10-second ECG in the office might show nothing unusual. Fibrosis is typically only detected on a cardiac MRI or discovered during an autopsy. That is exactly what happened to Gerald. His body had been warning him for years. Nobody connected the signals to the cause because nobody asked what he was eating at 9 p.m. Your body does not fail silently. It sends warnings. The problem is that most people either ignore them or blame them on the wrong thing entirely. First warning. You wake up in the middle of the night with a pounding heart, your pulse is fast, your chest feels tight. You lie there staring at the ceiling, convinced it was a bad dream or anxiety. It may not be nocturnal arrhythmia, an abnormal heart rhythm triggered by vagal disruption or nighttime pressure overload, feels exactly like that. If this happens to you regularly, your heart is telling you something. Do not talk yourself out of it. Second warning. You sleep 7 or 8 hours and wake up exhausted. Not groggy, genuinely drained, like you never slept at all. A heart that spent the night working under digestive load instead of recovering does not deliver restorative sleep. Your muscles did not repair. Your inflammation did not clear. You feel it the moment you open your eyes. Third warning. You need extra pillows to breathe comfortably at night, or you wake up short of breath. In medicine, this is called orthopnea. It can be an early sign that your heart is not pumping efficiently enough to keep fluid from backing up into your lungs when you lie flat. Fourth warning. Your ankles are swollen in the morning. Not the evening, the morning. That suggests your heart is struggling to manage fluid redistribution while you sleep. Fifth warning, frequent nighttime urination. Remember the mechanism from earlier. When the heart is overloaded, it releases atrial natriuretic peptide, a hormone that tells your kidneys to dump fluid urgently. That is a cardiac symptom, not a bladder problem. Any combination of these in someone over 50 who eats late regularly is not aging. It is a reason to see a cardiologist, not next month. Now, late eating alone is damaging, but most people are not dealing with late eating alone. They are stacking multiple factors on top of it, and each one multiplies the harm. Alcohol with dinner, a glass of wine, a beer, a small brandy. It compounds the vagal disruption we already discussed. It suppresses antidiuretic hormone, so your kidneys run unregulated all night, and it directly damages heart muscle cells. Chronic exposure has its own diagnosis. Alcoholic cardiomyopathy. The muscle weakens not from overload, but from poisoning. Smoking, or a history of smoking. Damaged blood vessels lose the ability to dilate properly at night. The coronary arteries, which are supposed to open slightly during deep sleep to nourish the heart muscle, stay tight. Blood flow to the heart during its only recovery window is compromised. 20 years of cigarettes do not disappear the day you quit. Prediabetes or insulin resistance. And a substantial portion of people over 40 have some degree of this without knowing it. The insulin spike from a late meal is exaggerated. Blood sugar crashes at 2 or 3 a.m. The body responds by dumping cortisol and adrenaline into the bloodstream, jerking the heart out of its parasympathetic rest rhythm into fight-or-flight mode. In the middle of the night, while you are asleep. Sleep apnea. Repeated pauses in breathing cause oxygen levels to drop sharply. Combine that with a full stomach, elevated blood pressure from sodium retention, and a heart already working overtime on digestion, and you have a perfect storm for a cardiac event during sleep. A sedentary lifestyle, without daytime movement to maintain vascular tone, the nighttime burden on the cardiovascular system is even heavier. Chronic stress. Elevated cortisol delays gastric emptying. That heavy dinner sits in your stomach longer, extending the entire cascade further into the hours your heart needs most. None of these factors alone is unusual. Stacked together on top of a 9 p.m. dinner, they are dangerous. Let me tell you about a patient I will call Marco. 57 years old, project manager at a construction firm. Solid, capable man, not the type to complain. Marco's routine was the same as half the country. Out the door by 6:30, coffee for breakfast, a sandwich at his desk around noon, home by 7:30, sometimes 8 o'clock, starving. Dinner was the event. Pasta with meat sauce, thick bread, cheese on the side, a glass of red wine. His wife cooked beautifully, and he ate everything. In bed by 10:30. He started waking up at 2 a.m. with his heart hammering in his chest. He blamed work stress. His ankles were puffy when he got up in the morning. He blamed standing on job sites all day. His wife told him he had started snoring louder and sometimes seemed to stop breathing for a few seconds. He shrugged. "I'm tired. That's what happens when you're tired." Marco did not come to see me about his heart. He came because he was exhausted, sleeping 8 hours and waking up feeling like he had not slept at all. His standard blood work looked unremarkable. Blood pressure was borderline, but not alarming. Cholesterol was acceptable. The echocardiogram told a different story. Early-stage diastolic dysfunction. His heart muscle had stiffened. It could fill with blood, but not as efficiently as it should. His ejection fraction was still technically in the normal range, which is exactly why a basic checkup would have missed it entirely. I did not prescribe a new medication first. I asked Marco to move his main meal to midday and eat only something light before 7 p.m. Within 3 weeks, the nocturnal pounding stopped. The morning swelling faded. At 6 months, his repeat echocardiogram showed measurable improvement in diastolic filling. His heart muscle began to recover the moment he gave it back its nighttime repair window. It was just dinner, and dinner was nearly killing him. Some people hear everything I have just explained and ask, is this actually proven, or is this one doctor's opinion? Let me be clear, the science on this is not ambiguous. Large-scale epidemiological studies have consistently shown that people who consume their largest meal late in the evening have higher rates of cardiovascular mortality than those who eat the same calories earlier in the day. Same food, same total intake, different timing, different outcomes. Research on blood pressure patterns has demonstrated that late-night eating is one of the strongest dietary predictors of non-dipping, the failure of blood pressure to drop during sleep. Non-dipping is directly associated with left ventricular remodeling, the structural reshaping and stiffening of the heart wall that precedes heart failure. Studies on heart rate variability, a measure of how well your autonomic nervous system manages your heart during sleep, show that eating within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime significantly reduces parasympathetic activity overnight. In plain terms, your heart's rest and repair mode is suppressed. The recovery window shrinks or disappears entirely. Data on postprandial triglycerides, that means the fat circulating in your blood after a meal, show that elevated levels during sleep hours promote endothelial inflammation in the coronary arteries. That is the exact mechanism that builds arterial plaques. When this inflammatory hit occurs during waking hours, the body clears it relatively quickly. When it occurs during sleep, clearance is delayed and exposure is prolonged. This is documented, it is replicated. It is increasingly recognized by cardiologists who specialize in heart failure and nocturnal cardiac events. The reason you have not heard about it is simple. Meal timing is not a billable procedure. There is no drug for it. There is no device to sell. There is no insurance code. So nobody in a clinic is going to sit you down and explain it. That is not how the system works. Here is exactly what to do, starting tonight. Rule 1. The 3-hour rule. Your last significant meal must be finished at least 3 hours before you lie down. Non-negotiable, no exceptions. This gives your stomach time to empty, your insulin time to return to baseline, and your cardiovascular system time to enter its rest phase, on schedule instead of fighting a digestive war. Rule 2. Restructure when you eat. Your largest meal moves to midday. Dinner becomes the lightest meal of your day. Vegetables, a small portion of lean protein, nothing heavy. Nothing processed. You are not eating less. You are eating earlier. Rule 3. Eliminate the nighttime sugar trap. No fruit, no dessert, no juice, no sweetened tea after 6 p.m. Simple carbohydrates in the evening trigger the insulin spike and the rebound crash that disrupts your heart's rhythm at 2 a.m. Rule 4. Sodium restriction after 4 p.m. No processed meats, no cheese, no canned food, no condiments at dinner. Hidden salt holds water in your system overnight and prevents the blood pressure dip your heart depends on. Rule 5. No alcohol within 3 hours of sleep. It suppresses antidiuretic hormone, poisons heart muscle cells, and destroys deep sleep architecture. The relaxation it offers is a lie your body pays for all night. Rule 6. A post-dinner walk. 10 to 15 minutes of gentle walking after your evening meal accelerates gastric emptying, improves insulin sensitivity, and lowers blood sugar by up to 30%. One habit, massive impact. Rule 7. Leg elevation before bed. Lie down with your legs raised above heart level for 15 to 20 minutes before you sleep. This mobilizes the fluid pooled in your lower legs and sends it through your kidneys while you are still awake, so your heart is not hit with a volume surge at midnight. Rule 8. Elevate the head of your bed slightly, 15 to 20 degrees. Not a stack of pillows under your head, that kinks the neck. Raise the mattress or the bed frame itself. This reduces reflux and gently assists cardiac return throughout the night. 8 rules, 0 cost. Start tonight. Your age changes everything about how dangerous this habit actually is. Under 40, your heart muscle is resilient. It tolerates occasional late meals without obvious consequence. But do not mistake silence for safety. The inflammatory groundwork is already being laid. Endothelial damage is accumulating. You simply cannot feel it yet. Between 40 and 50, diastolic function, your heart's ability to relax and fill with blood between beats, begins to decline naturally. That is a normal part of aging. But add nightly digestive stress on top of that natural decline and you accelerate the stiffening process significantly. This is the decade where fibrosis seeds are planted. The scarring that will define your cardiac risk at 60 often starts here, quietly, invisibly, while you eat pasta at 9 p.m. and feel perfectly fine. Between 50 and 60, the window narrows sharply. Non-dipping blood pressure becomes far more common. Arrhythmia risk rises. The same late heavy meal your body forgave at 35 now carries a measurably higher risk of a nocturnal cardiac event. Your heart has less reserve, your vessels are less elastic, and your recovery capacity is smaller. The margin for error shrinks every year. Over 60, every single mechanism I have discussed in this video hits harder. Gerald was 62. His heart had no reserve left to absorb the nightly damage, and nobody told him, "How old are you? Write it in the comments. I want to know which age group this information reaches, because it will shape what I cover next." Now here is what to ask your doctor at your next visit. First, an echocardiogram to assess diastolic function. Second, a 24-hour blood pressure monitor to check whether you are a non-dipper. Third, an HbA1c blood test to screen for insulin resistance. These 3 tests combined with an honest conversation about when and what you eat at night will give you a far clearer picture of your cardiac risk than any standard checkup ever will. Everything I have walked you through today, the fibrosis, the nighttime blood pressure spikes, the silent damage from years of late eating, these are problems that mainstream medicine is only beginning to prioritize. But right now, research teams across the United States are actively running clinical trials on exactly these cardiovascular issues. New approaches to heart muscle recovery, advanced cardiac monitoring, treatments that most doctors do not have access to yet because they have not cleared standard approval. That is where CareHealth comes in. CareHealth is a free platform that matches you with clinical trials in your area based on your specific health profile. You fill out a short form, takes about 30 seconds, and you get access to a curated list of studies that are recruiting participants right now. Cardiac studies, metabolic research, blood pressure trials, things that could genuinely change how your heart ages over the next decade. You are not scrolling through a government database trying to decode medical terminology. CareHealth breaks every trial down in plain language, shows you what is involved, what is required, and connects you directly with the research team. Many of these trials offer full medical monitoring at no cost, and some compensate you for participating. This is exclusively available to U.S. residents, and I will be straightforward with you. Spots fill fast. Thousands of viewers from this channel have already signed up, and the trials I am seeing right now are actively recruiting. Once they hit their enrollment cap, they close. That is how clinical research works. You do not get a second window. If you are on a computer, click the link on my channel page. If you are watching on your phone, tap my channel profile picture to go to the channel page, and you will see the link right there. A screenshot is on your screen now showing exactly where to find it. You can also scan the QR code appearing on screen. Open your phone camera, point it at the square, and tap the link that pops up. You just spent this entire video learning how to protect your heart. This is one more step you can take right now. Do not bookmark it for later. Do not wait for the next video. The trials available today may not be there tomorrow. Go to CareHealth, take 30 seconds, and see what is available near you.